Radical Nation. And get your copy of Radical Nation at bookstores everywhere. It's already a #1 Amazon bestseller. Tune in to Spicer at 6 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax on all major cable channels. Check your guide. Or find Newsmax on most streaming platforms and smart TVs like Samsung, LG, Roku, Xumo, Amazon Fire, Pluto, and more. Sean Spicer's Radical Nation. Get it today.
Just in, folks, at Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens in Ocala, a great new selection of winter hardy annuals at a truly amazing low price. Now take your pick from snapdragon, petunias, dianthus, flowering cabbage, Johnny Jump Up, and many more. Mix and match your choice, a flat of 15 for just $23.99. It's Camellia time, and Bob Wine's famous heirloom sun and shade loving camellias, the gallon size, not $19.99, just $16.99 this week. And those popular dwarf camellias in pink and red, they're just $19.99. Bob has more herbs than you've ever seen. They start at just $1.99. And how about this doorbuster? Confederate Jasmine closeout price, you get 2 for $10. Spruce up for cool weather now at Ocala's 5.5-acre garden. Bob Wine's Camellia Garden, Southeast 38th Street in Ocala, in the same blooming place for almost 70 years.
Dance Alive National Ballet presents Phantom, A Tale of Obsession on Saturday, October 30th at 2 p.m. and at 7:30 p.m. at the Curtis M. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts in Gainesville. It is a world of love and obsession. Good versus evil. The classic love triangle. What better for Halloween? Funding is provided in part by Visit Gainesville, Alachua County. A grant from the City of Gainesville Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Department. Details and ticket information at dancealive.org.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
Dad's service to our country is something we're so proud of. He made a difference and set a great example. Now it's our turn to honor the sacrifices he made for our family and this country. As veteran specialists, Hires Baxley Funeral Service helps us celebrate Dad's life and can help you too. Hires Baxley is here for you during your time of need or when planning for the future. For more information, call 352-484-0891 or visit hiresbaxley.com/choice.
You're getting ready to move and you work hard. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. You need pros. Trained professional moving experts to do the heavy lifting for you. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. They care about your things as much as you do, and they do it fast and right. That's why you call Two Men in a Truck, 352-289-0666. Visit twomeninatruck.com and get moving.
Two Men in a Truck.
Welcome back to In the Garden with Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Before the break, we were talking about snakes and how I've never seen a snake attack like this black racer did, and the aggressiveness, but how snakes run from you, and they don't want they
don't want to be bothered by you, and I was saying, with the rattlesnakes, that they're in certain areas around here. They're not in everybody's backyard.
No, rattlesnakes aren't. They're indigenous to Florida, but they're not hanging out in your subdivision most of the time.
Right, not in most
straw beds. They love straw beds.
And they do seem to be a problem. From what I remember, former Master Gardener, she lived out near the Highlands.
Right.
And they were there.
Dry dirt area.
Out in the shores, I've heard them being there. If you have a serious issue, I think with scorpions, I seem to think that there's a relationship that if you've got there may be some in that area.
They like
and
dry,
again, those drier,
areas,
right. Those drier areas, those more strawy type of yards and things like that, and wooded areas. And
wooded areas with palmettos, you can find a lot.
I was going to say, you find them a lot of times too in areas where there is actually water, because they do swim.
They do.
They can swim across. I've seen them swim across the river. So like the shores area.
But rattlesnakes aren't in everybody's backyard like you would want to think.
No.
Everybody says, rattlesnakes are all over Florida.
No.
They're not in your backyard.
No.
90% of the time, they're not in your backyard.
Right.
They're in wooded areas.
They're in certain areas. I have never seen one in my own property. I have seen one swim across. I think it was the Withlacoochee River, one time, and I know that in the general area of kind of like where I live and where I used to live, it's like a 5-mile difference between the two, that there had been some very large ones at one time. But that's also, there's a huge field, and there was a very large dairy, or not dairy, cattle ranch and stuff in those areas. So it was very open, very much had straw and hay and things like that in those areas. So but they aren't everywhere. And they also have to be in an area where there's something to eat.
When I was at Daniel Memorial, which was a home for mostly troubled teenagers from 11 to 13, we get assigned individual counselors for your case. And
right.
My counselor assigned to me was Mike Brown. And now nobody knows who Mike Brown is. He's from Jacksonville, and they were born and raised in Jacksonville. Except for he was a world-class javelin thrower.
Oh.
And when I talked to Terry Bradshaw, who's been on the show before, about Mike Brown, because Terry Bradshaw was a world-class javelin thrower before he was quarterback. He knew Mike. Well, one day, 1977, we're on a counseling walk through the woods, and Daniel Memorial was on Belfort Road in Jacksonville, and it butted up to a very wooded area, palmetto bushes, sand dunes, that kind of thing. And we're out on a walk, and he carried his javelin everywhere we went. It was the funniest thing. He would always carry his javelin with him. We're out on a walk, and there it is. Right up against the base of a tree, just off the trail. We had walked up on the snake. The snake was probably fixing to cross the trail.
Right.
So we surprised him. Mike says, stand back. And, I'm a kid of 11, 12 years old. So I stand back. He takes that javelin, nails that snake right in the head.
Wow.
Right in the head with that javelin. Then he takes the snake. We put it out, salt it, put it out the skin on the board. Do it. Then everybody gets a wood burning kit, and all the kids at the home put their name in it and everything.
Right.
It still hangs in that home to this day.
Oh, that's cool.
It's an amazing, but it was a rattlesnake, and 9 times out of 10 you want to leave them alone.
Right.
But this was a well-walked path.
Right.
And everything.
And that's when somebody, normally you'd have just left it go, and watched your step from there forward.
Right. How many times have you been in a John boat or something on a creek? And you had a water moccasin fall out of the tree where he's sunning itself into the boat.
Thank goodness I never have, because I'd have probably ended up as gator bait as going over the other side. But, that's only because you're startled by it more than anything.
Well, you go down Thomas Creek in Callahan, Florida.
And
that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And the trees just hang over the creek. It was nothing for a water moccasin to just fall out of the trees where it's sunning itself into the water.
Yeah. It's
unless
asleep.
you happen to be coming by, and then it falls in the John boat.
Right.
And then because it's so groggy and asleep, you just use your rod and reel or your boat oar that you got on there, and you just right out in the water. Never once did I even think of it. And people say, you did what with water moccasins when you were a kid? You would just pick them up with a boat oar and put them in the water? He was about knocked out, and then the trauma of falling, the trauma of falling and hitting that John boat and everything. People say, no, it really wasn't that big a deal. That snake was not a danger. He was asleep. He or she was asleep.
Right. He wasn't a big deal.
And by the way, they all have the advantage of something they help in the ecosystem. All of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Good morning. You're on with Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin.
Yeah, good morning again. This is Yuri. Speaking of snakes, when I lived in Silver Springs, a pygmy rattler hit one of my large dogs, and it was on a Sunday, and we couldn't get to the vet till Monday, and she told us that if the dog would have been a smaller dog, it'd have been history, you know. And but the dog had to have special treatment on its leg where it got bit because the skin was rotting away, and they did a certain kind of a thing to heal it up, and the dog still has that kind of a scar look to it right now. But those pygmy rattlers, they're they can be trouble.
They can.
Yeah, they can. But you
Thanks
know
for the call,
yeah,
Hugh.
Yeah, with the pygmy rattlesnake, because I actually. It was a Mother's Day weekend. I had
Don't
just
tell me you've been bit by a pygmy.
No, not me, but a cat.
Okay,
She took a scratch. I'll say she wasn't really bit, and of course it's a holiday weekend. This and that. Get the cat gathered up. Nothing I can do. Like you said, it was a Sunday. Put the cat in an old rabbit hutch, so she's got room. Can put water there. This and that. She was I don't know. I think I couldn't call it. There was nobody to call. I think I called somebody, and they says, "Well, if she makes it through the night, call the vet. Call the vet." And so she made it through the night. I called the vet the next day. They said, "Well, she made it through the night. Call us if she's got a problem." But the cat's little tiny pussycat paw, blew up to the size of
certainly
her leg and this and that, and it was I think they got us an antibiotic for her, and but she was fine. But there for about a couple months, she wouldn't walk on the ground.
Right.
She'd walk on top of everything else so she could look down. But she's the one who picked the fight with the snake. One thing with pygmy rattlesnakes, you basically have to put your finger in their mouth.
You have to, because their mouth's so
Because
small.
they are so tiny. Those and the coral snake. The coral snake actually has to chew on you in order to actually. And the coral snake is more deadly than any of them. I tell you,
same story with the Hugh was talking about.
Yeah.
When I was 8, 9, 10 years old, we had my dad raised cow dogs.
Okay.
Or pit bulls.
Right, okay, yeah.
They were cow
Staffordshire
dogs.
Terriers?
Staffordshire. I've had numerous Staffordshires, but these were actually pit bulls.
Okay.
And before they had the bad name they have, because Jill, the dog that I'm fixing to tell you about, when she got her ears cropped at 5.5 months, I was 3 years old, and they have 8mm film of me grabbing her by her bandaged cropped ear and dragging her across the yard with her yelping, and my dad coming out, let her ear go, let her ear. Not once did the dog even attempt to bite me or anything. Okay?
Right.
So it's how the dog's raised.
Right.
Okay?
And how it's bred.
Exactly. So Jill got bit by a rattlesnake. She was out in the pasture, and the rattlesnake bit her in the forehead. And Daddy, he called the vet, and the vet said, Smitty, here's what's going to happen. The area on her, if it didn't get into her brain to kill her,
right?
She's still alive. This was like 3-4 hours later. The vet called back.
Right.
He said it's going to swell up. If she makes it through the night, she's going to get a big swollen area on her head. You can lance it, or you can let nature burst it. When it bursts, it's either going to kill her, or she's going to be fine.
Wow.
There's no reason for you to come in and spend the money with me, because that's all I'm going to be able to do.
Right. They really didn't use any venom on animals.
No, this is the 70s.
Yeah.
Jill ended up with a gourd on her head that looked like a baseball.
Yeah.
So my dad was like, he wanted to lance it, but Jill wouldn't let anybody near, and now she's getting a little aggressive.
Yeah, because it hurts. It's painful.
So he put her in a pen with Booger, and Booger was her mother. And the reason we called Booger that is because she had a skin disease where she couldn't grow any hair. So she was just skin with brown and green splotches. Bulldog, big old cow dog, 100 pounds. And I heard a yelp about 4 days later, just a bad scream. And I went around the thing, and Booger's licking Jill's head. Jill's laid out. Booger's licking Jill's head. And then Jill moved a little bit, and she got up, and I went and got Daddy, and he
cleaned
the sore, bandaged it. She never could grow hair there anymore. She didn't miss a lick.
That's crazy.
So it's all in how their body
can react
with the poison.
And realize too, our possums. Everybody possums will tear up a garden, but they're also so beneficial to have in your area, and they can withstand rattlesnake bites.
Right.
That they're but they're not. They are not known to be rabies carriers.
No.
They are ones that will eat cockroaches. They will eat other. They eat all kinds of stuff, and they're possums.
They'll eat
possums.
anything.
They'll eat. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And a lot of raccoons won't come around when there's possums because
they have conflict.
Right,
yeah.
and raccoons will really tear your garden.
Oh yes, raccoons they will really tear.
Because they're human garbage. They're animal garbage disposals.
Yes,
they'll eat anything.
Right.
So if it's got any kind of flavor or anything any kind of nutrient,
they're going
they'll
to
eat
tear it up. Yep.
And so they'll tear your garden. A raccoon will tear your garden.
Yes.
Slap up. So opossums, never a bad thing.
Right. They're good guys.
How important are because we always hear about honeybees and how they pollinate and honeybees.
Oh yeah.
But recently we just had a client on the radio that was talking about the bat enclosure that they have out north of Gainesville.
Right, yeah, the bat houses and that.
The Bacardi family started and everything. And he said they have bats there that do the same thing bees do, pollinate.
Yeah, but they're bats aren't going to get into the melon crops and things like that and be able to pollinate.
But I didn't even know bats could pollinate.
Yeah, almost a lot of stuff pollinates. Some things pollinate better than others. Wasps pollinate, other insects pollinate. But I guess, those ones are more because they're nectar feeders. Mm-hmm. So if you're a nectar feeder, you're gathering pollen from one plant to another, and so it's acting like that. So they're more of a nectar feeder.
I didn't know bats could do that.
Yeah, I mean they can do all kinds of stuff. Bats are good guys.
All right, so I've wasted 45 minutes before I bring up that my wife got all kind of kudos from you over the weekend.
Yeah.
Except for her desire to put coffee filters in
coffee filters, I mean, also I think I had told her was you got to really tear them up really good. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just skip them and put those, you could rinse. Yeah.
What we have is she's got a container now. It's an old margarine tub, a gallon margarine tub. Yep. And every morning when she gets done with her coffee or tea bags or whatever, the tea into there, and any kind of peels or anything we do that day, in they go. Yep. When she juices, in it goes. Yep. And now she's going out and digging little holes, and every time that gallon gets filled up, she digs a little hole, puts it in the ground.
Dumps it in there. Yep, dumps it in there, and you can rinse out your little bucket, pour that in there too, and it's getting enough water there.
She's done that about four times since she talked about it. I always thought about compost piles and stuff.
Right.
I never thought about doing compost in that small of a...
Yeah. Well, the microorganisms are already in the soil. There's earthworms somewhere around there. They're going to find it. She'll find, that as she's digging in there...
Wait, hold on. I'll be able to find red wigglers?
Yeah, you'll be able to get bait out of there.
I hate fishing, but boy, I like red wigglers. I like digging up red wigglers.
You don't like fishing?
I hate fishing.
I was going to say that. I don't see where they're that tasty.
Fish is just, it's like watching paint dry, but you're on the water.
Fishing's good. It's
ridiculous.
But,
of course, it may have to do with I can't. Every time I try to mess with a reel, I end up getting it tangled up.
So it might be operator error on
No, it's definitely operator error.
But no, she'll find that as she goes down and does this in the garden where you're not seeing the earthworms and things like that. When she comes back into those areas later on to get ready to plant, that you start to find that more, earthworms and things like that will be in there.
What about prepared food that is sat in the refrigerator? Can you use that as compost?
I wouldn't. Usually it's because we've added salt, butter,
pepper,
fats, things like that. Things that aren't going to be the best things.
Well, we had mashed cauliflower to mimic mashed potatoes.
Right.
And by the way, amazing.
Was it good?
Really amazing. And I won't tell you where I got it from.
But of course,
I won't tell you where I got it from.
We're going to talk about the same thing with juicing and potatoes. Potatoes are cheap. Cauliflower is not.
Well, we got this from a 50% off place.
Sure.
I won't tell you where the place is, but Felix does a good job as a chef.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to tell you. And so we got this thing, and it was a big container, and it needed butter because it was now warm.
Yeah.
And I go, so we should put butter in this. And Susan goes, nope. I go, what do you mean it needs butter? She goes, put it on your plate, put butter on it on your plate. I go, why? She goes, in case there's any left over that we don't eat, if you put butter in it, that's dairy. Therefore, that rules out being able to use it as compost because we've introduced dairy into it.
Now, when but she doesn't know it when they made
with the ingredients. The only ingredients on it was whipped cauliflower.
Wow.
And water. That was the only ingredients. So there was no butter added to it, no salt,
no milk, nothing. Cool.
So that's why she said, don't put butter in it. Put it on your plate, because Carol Ann says.
Then put your butter and
Carol
salt and
Ann
pepper.
says you can't introduce dairy into a compost
Yeah,
pile.
you don't want to put that fat in there. Yeah, just because that's going to attract varmints. Yeah, it's just. Yeah,
And that is it because. Is it that butter's not good for, or is it just because of it being a fatty situation?
Well, it's
varmints are attracted
varmints
to it.
and that it's greasy. It's kind of just
Oily.
icky, oily. It's not good. It doesn't break down that way. Butter doesn't return to the earth.
Okay.
Butter came. The cow ate the grass, and she turned that into a liquid, which we take and remove and turn into butter.
Right.
So it's something you don't want to do. Yeah, we don't want to put the bread in. We don't want to put the last little bite of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich in there. None of that stuff.
Okay,
Just
first
left
off,
all
if
that.
you have a last little bite of
I
peanut
know,
butter and
that's
jelly and
just
you throw it away,
That's sacrilege.
that's you may need to get a whooping.
That's sacrilege. With the kids, parents just.
Is
eat
there
that.
a better sandwich than peanut butter and jelly?
I don't think so.
I don't think there is. You get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and a lot of people won't know this because you're not old enough to remember this, but you get a nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then you get that fresh milk that wasn't homogenized. It came
right from the dairy.
Yeah, right around where I grew up in Callahan, Florida. There was T.G. Lee and Gustafson Dairies. And I had friends whose parents worked there, so we would go and get raw milk.
Yeah.
And you get that cold raw milk and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Man, what you talking about? It don't get that.
Doesn't get any better than that.
You call me a lot of things, Carol Ann. Late for dinner ain't never been one of them.
Ain't gonna been one. No.
So, with the cool air coming,
yes.
What should we be thinking about now? Because the cool air is coming. What precautions, or is there anything? What should we be thinking about now?
I really wouldn't be worried about anything. It's not going to get that cold. They're talking mid-50s, which is, for cool season plants, fantastic. For some other plants, it'll start to slow some growth down out in the landscape, which that's fine.
Still not cold enough to slow it down where you can prune and stuff like that?
Yeah, not to do any drastic pruning. No, I would wait till about February. Wait till we've had some frost
crepe
going.
murder. No
crepe murder yet. Realize your lawn's going to slow down on growing. Make sure things are staying watered so that it's not drought. Any issue with lack of water, that they're water stressed. If you're, this is the time of year. November 1st is Monday.
Yes.
This is the last Tuesday in October. November 1st is Monday. Possibility of frost is getting closer and closer.
November 15th.
November 15th is usually when we can expect a frost. Doesn't always happen then, but it's one of those things of, if you have tender plants that you want to keep for next year, you might be thinking about, where am I going to put them? This might be a good time to begin to say, you know what, after this cold, before it warms up again, I'm going to move them inside for the winter. I'm not a big advocate of moving them in and out, because you just end up with shock. Your plants really are not that happy to come in just because it's going to go to 32, and guess what? Next week you have to sit outside and it's going to be 42.
What do you say to someone like our situation? Somebody who owned the house before us did away with the outdoor dryer vent because I guess it got clogged or something.
Right.
They rerouted the dryer vent. Now the dryer vents into the garage. So the garage in the wintertime
stays toasty warm.
Toasty warm.
Yeah.
So when you bring those plants in, once they're in that toasty warm air, they should stay there the whole.
I see. That's what I say, is to try to find places in the house where they have light.
In the garage, we open the garage door and light comes in that way.
Right. And that would be, but that's how happy they'd be for that whole winter in an area that's really got limited light, because you figure if it's going to be cold out, you're probably not going to.
Well, it's got fluorescent bulbs.
Get some grow lights on that. But no, I like.
No,
like
that'd end up having the cops flying over my house and everything. I've had my experience with grow lights in my 20s. No, not doing it.
No hydroponics deliveries coming in.
No, not doing it.
But if you've got some sunny spots in the house for those more tender plants that are just going to be happier if you can just bring them in and let them be for the winter. And just because it's like, well, the whole thing of going, you can come in if it's going to go to 32, But at 42, you're going to stress out here because it's cold. But it's not cold enough to have to bring them in, find a place for them to that they're going to hang out for the winter. That sunny room, maybe you've got that spare bedroom with some good light that comes in. Put you some plastic on the floor.
I don't think I'm bringing Mom in this year.
No.
Because she's under a big oak tree now.
Right. At 32, I think I'm
going to cover her.
Gonna try covering her?
I think I'm gonna cover her. I got the blanket now, and I got a stick, so the
blanket
so
it doesn't sit on there.
Right. And
we'll see. We'll see. It might be one of those nights that at about 2:00, you'll wake up, or Susan will kick in.
I've also thought about for Mom. They have the cheap lights you can get at Harbor Freight and places like that.
Right.
They pinch it onto the blanket and all.
Right.
And it, with a floodlight,
right.
70, and I can get a 40-watt bulb or something and put under that blanket.
Make sure it's incandescent.
It will be incandescent.
Yeah, they're hard to find nowadays.
I know.
They're hard to find.
Because the LED doesn't work.
LED's not going to do a darn thing for you. Or,
you got an incandescent bulb.
Yep.
You know where you get incandescent bulbs?
Probably at Harbor Freight.
No. Go to a lot of flea markets.
Oh, where they bought up. Yeah, where they bought up stuff.
Right.
Before I see we're running out of time, I do want to mention
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. While I was on vacation, actually before that, I saw this place going up on 441, and when I drove by it one time, it says, "Oh, nursery, garden center, whatever they call themselves." And I went, "Oh, I must stop by," and it's like, "Oh, they're open. Yes, they are," and they are. New little place. It's called the Garden Spot. The G Spot, haha. Yeah, and it's a
leaving that
alone. I'm gonna. Yes, please do. We are family-oriented.
Leaving that alone.
But it's a new nursery right here, right in Ocala, right off of South Pine. It's at 5960, easy to remember, South Pine Avenue. Easy to get into, easy to get out of. Nice little place, brand new. Prices are competitive. They are looking to work with landscapers, so I think they're looking to do some stuff on some deals if they can for you. And they also do, I believe, some landscape work as well. That they are also installers and things like that. So they had a couple things that I haven't seen in my big box store in a while because I can't seem to get them. So. I hate to compete. Bob Wines is a great local nursery. Hopefully this will become another new local independent kind of nursery. And I always say, if you're looking for something different and unique, shop your local nurseries, because they work with the smaller mom and pop places. They're not working with those great big huge suppliers or the big box stores. So stop in, take a look, introduce yourself. Lynn was the lady's name that I spoke to, real pleasant, and see if they've got something you're looking for.
Got about 10 seconds. Tell people where they can find you.
They'll find me tomorrow. I'll be back to work for a few days before I have another day off. Down there at Lowe's and Lady Lake, and on the In the Garden Facebook group page. Just ask to be a member.
Carol Ann Baldwin. Talk to you next week.
Yep.
We'll be right back after this timeout.
Broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport, this is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.